My girlfriend cheated for months and used my best friend as her alibi, so I exposed her in public. My name is Lucas, and I thought I had found the love of my life in Mary Chen. We'd been together for 2.5 years, living in our cozy apartment in downtown Portland. Mary worked as a social media manager for a tech startup, while I was grinding it out as a freelance graphic designer. Life felt good, or at least I thought it did. Mary was everything I thought I wanted: ambitious, beautiful, with this infectious laugh that could light up any room. She had this way of making everyone around her feel special, which I now realize should have been my first red flag. But back then, I was just grateful to be the guy she chose to come home to every night. Our relationship seemed solid from the outside. We had our routines, our inside jokes, our shared dreams of maybe buying a house someday. Mary would cook these amazing Thai dishes she'd learned from her grandmother, and I'd work on my designs while she managed her clients' Instagram accounts and TikTok campaigns. It was domestic bliss, or so I believed. The first crack in our perfect facade appeared about 6 months ago when I noticed Mary becoming increasingly secretive about her phone. She'd started taking it everywhere, even to the bathroom, which was weird because she used to leave it charging on the kitchen counter without a care in the world. When I mentioned it casually, she laughed it off, saying her boss Lucas, different Lucas, obviously, had been demanding quicker response times to client emergencies. I bought it because I wanted to. Love makes you stupid that way. The real wake-up call came on a random Tuesday evening in March. Mary was in the shower, and her phone kept buzzing on the nightstand. Normally, I wouldn't even glance at it, but the frequency was annoying, like every 30 seconds for 10 minutes straight. I figured it must be some kind of emergency with one of her clients. When I picked up the phone to put it on silent, I saw the notifications. Not work stuff. Instagram DMs from someone named Dylan Rodriguez, and the preview text that was visible made my stomach drop. Can't wait to see you again tomorrow, beautiful. Last night was incredible. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. My hands were literally shaking as I set the phone back down exactly where it was. Mary was still in the shower, humming some pop song like nothing in the world was wrong, while my entire reality was crumbling around me. I didn't confront her immediately. Maybe I should have, but I needed to know more. I needed to understand what I was dealing with before I blew up our entire life together. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I started paying attention to every little detail of Mary's behavior, and what I found made me sick. Over the next week, I became a detective in my own relationship. Mary's story about working late started falling apart when I realized her location on Find My Friends showed her at places that definitely weren't her office. Trendy bars in the Pearl District, that expensive steakhouse she always said was too pricey for us, even a hotel downtown one Thursday night when she claimed to be at a client dinner that ran super late. I felt like a creep doing it, but I created a fake Instagram account to check out this Dylan guy. Turns out he was some kind of fitness influencer with 50K followers, all abs and protein shakes and motivational quotes about living your best life. He was basically everything I wasn't: tall, jacked, with that perfect stubble that probably takes him an hour to maintain every morning. The worst part? Looking through his photos, I could see Mary in the background of several recent posts. At a rooftop bar, laughing at something he was saying. At some kind of workout class, wearing athletic wear I'd never seen before. At a hiking trail that she told me she went to with her coworker Qley for girl time. Qley. I decided to test that particular lie. I ran into Qley purely by accident at our local coffee shop that weekend. She worked with Mary and had been to our apartment a few times for dinner parties, so we knew each other casually. When I mentioned how Mary had been spending a lot of time with her lately, especially hiking, Qley looked genuinely confused. Hiking. Mary hates hiking. She always complains about getting dirty and bugs. When did she start hiking? My heart sank even further, but I played it off with a laugh. Oh, maybe I misunderstood. She's been out a lot lately. I figured it was work stuff or hanging with you. Qley's expression shifted, and I could tell she was putting pieces together too. Lucas, Mary hasn't hung out with me outside of work in months. And she's been leaving the office early a lot lately, saying she has personal appointments. We stared at each other for a moment, both realizing what this meant. I'm sorry, Qley said quietly. I had no idea you didn't know. I went home that afternoon feeling like my chest was caving in. Mary was there, meal prepping for the week like nothing was wrong, chatting about some client drama at work. Looking at her, acting so normal, so loving, made me feel crazy. Was I losing my mind? Was there some innocent explanation for all of this? But then she got a text and did that thing. That quick, secretive phone check where she angled the screen away from me. And I knew. I knew with complete certainty that my girlfriend of 2.5 years was cheating on me with some Instagram fitness bro named Dylan. I decided to give her one chance to come clean. Just one. Hey babe, I said, trying to keep my voice casual while she chopped vegetables. I was thinking, we haven't been spending much quality time together lately. Want to plan something for this weekend? Maybe that hiking trail you mentioned. She froze for just a split second, so brief I might have missed it if I wasn't looking for it. Actually I think I might be coming down with something. Qley was feeling sick earlier this week. Another lie. Qley had looked perfectly healthy at the coffee shop. Maybe we should do something low-key instead? Sure, I said. Or maybe we could double date with Qley and her boyfriend sometime soon. Mary's knife slipped, and she nicked her finger. Shit, she muttered, running it under the faucet. Yeah, maybe. I think they're going through a rough patch right now though. Lie number 3. Qley had been gushing about her boyfriend Paul just an hour earlier, talking about how they were looking at engagement rings. That night, while Mary slept next to me, I stared at the ceiling planning my next move. I needed concrete proof before I confronted her. I needed to know exactly what I was dealing with, because part of me still hoped I was wrong, that there was some explanation that would make all of this make sense. The next morning, Mary left for work, and I did something I never thought I'd be capable of. I knew her laptop password. It was our anniversary date plus her cat's name from childhood. She'd never hidden it from me because why would she? We trusted each other. Or at least, I had trusted her. Her Instagram DMs with Dylan were like reading a trashy romance novel, except it was my life being destroyed line by line. Months of flirtation, plans to meet up, photos that definitely weren't meant for my eyes. But the worst part wasn't the sexual stuff, it was how she talked about me. Lucas is so clingy lately, she'd written. He's sweet but he has no ambition. Dylan, you make me feel alive again. I know I should break up with him, but it's complicated. We have the lease and everything. I think I'm falling for you, Dylan. What should I do? His responses weren't much better. He knew about me, knew she was in a relationship, and didn't care. In fact, he seemed to get off on the secrecy, the thrill of being the other guy. I might have lived in denial longer, might have tried to save what we had, but then I found the photos. Mary had been documenting their entire affair like it was some kind of romantic adventure. Pictures from hotel rooms, romantic dinners, weekend getaways that she told me were work conferences or trips with friends. The final straw was a video from just 3 days earlier. Mary and Dylan in what was clearly his apartment, her wearing lingerie I'd never seen before, talking about how much she loved him. The timestamp showed it was from last Tuesday, the day she told me she was working late on a campaign for a difficult client. I sat there in our kitchen, on the same stool where she'd lied to my face about Qley and hiking and work dinners, and I finally accepted the truth. The woman I thought I was going to marry had been living a double life for months, and I was just the convenient safety net while she figured out her exit strategy. I could have confronted Mary immediately, could have blown up and thrown her stuff out on the street. But I'd been thinking clearly for weeks now, and I realized that would just make me look like the crazy, jealous boyfriend. Mary was good at manipulating situations to make herself look like the victim. I'd seen her do it with friends and co-workers. Instead, I decided to be strategic. I took screenshots of everything, the DMs, the photos, the location data showing her lies. I opened my own bank account and started moving my portion of our shared savings. I looked into breaking our lease early and found out what the penalties would be. But first, I wanted to understand exactly what I was dealing with. Who else knew about this affair? How long had this been planned? Was Dylan just the latest guy, or was he special? I created another fake account and started following some of Dylan's friends and gym buddies. Social media detective work isn't glamorous, but it's effective. Within a few days, I had a pretty complete picture of the situation. Turns out, Dylan had been bragging about his complicated situation with Mary to his gym crew for months. These guys were posting stories and comments that made it clear they all knew he was involved with someone who was technically unavailable. They thought it was hilarious, like some kind of game. Even worse, some of Mary's co-workers seemed to know what was happening. Not Qley, thankfully, But I recognized a few faces from office parties in the background of Dylan's posts. People who had smiled to my face while knowing my girlfriend was cheating on me. The betrayal wasn't just Mary anymore. It was an entire network of people who had decided that my feelings, my dignity, didn't matter. I was the joke they all shared when I wasn't around. That's when I decided that a quiet breakup wasn't enough. I wasn't going to let Mary control the narrative or paint me as the bad guy when this all came out. The truth needed to come out, and it needed to come out in a way that couldn't be spun or manipulated. I spent the next week acting completely normal while I put my plan into motion. Mary was so wrapped up in her secret relationship that she barely noticed my mood. When she did ask if I was okay, I blamed work stress or family stuff, and she'd nod sympathetically before going back to texting Dylan. My plan was simple. I was going to force Mary to choose between me and Dylan publicly, in a way that would expose her lies to everyone who mattered. No more sneaking around, no more excuses, no more letting her have her cake and eat it too. First, I needed to know their next meetup. Based on the message patterns I'd observed, they usually met up on Thursday evenings when Mary claimed to have late work obligations. Sure enough, their DMs confirmed they had plans for that Thursday dinner at that expensive steakhouse, then back to his place. I booked a table at the same restaurant for the same time. But I wouldn't be going alone. I invited Qley, who had become my unofficial ally in this whole mess. She was just as disgusted by Mary's behavior as I was, especially after I showed her some of the screenshots where Mary had been using Qley's name as cover for her lies. I also invited two other couples who were close friends of both Mary and me, people who had been at our housewarming party, who had double-dated with us, who considered us relationship goals. Lucas, yes, another Lucas, my friend from college, and his girlfriend Lisa, plus Paul and his girlfriend Janet. I told them all I wanted to surprise Mary with a romantic dinner to celebrate a work promotion she'd gotten. They were excited to be part of the surprise, especially since Mary had been so busy with work lately that we hadn't all hung out in months. The plan was for them to arrive first and get seated at a table with a good view of the restaurant. I'd text them when Mary and Dylan arrived, and then I'd make my entrance. Thursday evening arrived, and I was surprisingly calm. Mary spent an hour getting ready, putting on makeup and a dress I'd never seen before. When I complimented how good she looked, she smiled and said she was just trying to make a good impression for this important client dinner. I might be home late, she said, kissing me goodbye. Don't wait up. Have fun with your client, I replied, and I swear she almost flinched at the word client. My friends were already at the restaurant when I arrived. They'd managed to get a table with perfect sightlines to the intimate corner booth where Dylan and Mary were having their romantic dinner. They looked so happy, so comfortable together, laughing and holding hands across the table like they didn't have a care in the world. "Oh my God," Lisa whispered when she saw them. "Is that really Mary?" "With someone who definitely isn't Lucas," Janet added, looking sick. I walked over to their table slowly, my heart pounding but my mind crystal clear. Mary saw me first. The color drained from her face so fast I thought she might faint. "Lucas," she gasped. "What are you doing here?" Dylan looked confused, glancing between us. "Who's Lucas?" "I'm her boyfriend," I said calmly, extending my hand to Dylan. "Well, I was her boyfriend until about 5 seconds ago." "You must be Dylan. I've heard so much about you." The restaurant wasn't that busy, but our little drama was definitely attracting attention. Mary was trying to find words, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. "Lucas, I can explain," she finally managed. "Actually, you can't," I said, pulling out my phone. "Because I have screenshots of every lie you've told me for the past 3 months. Every fake work dinner, every imaginary hiking trip with Qley, every time you said you loved me while you were planning your next date with Dylan here." Dylan was looking angry now. "Dude, she told me you guys were broken up. She said you were just roommates finishing out a lease." Mary's face went even whiter. "That's not... I never said." "Really?" I scrolled through my screenshots. "Because according to your messages from last Tuesday, and I quote, Lucas is so clueless. He actually believes I'm working late. And this one from Friday, I can't wait to dump him, but I need to figure out the apartment situation first." The next few minutes were chaos. Mary tried to explain, then tried to blame me for spying on her, then tried to get Dylan to leave with her. But Dylan was pissed about being lied to as well. Turns out he thought he was dating a single woman, not helping someone cheat. You told me he was your ex, Dylan said, standing up. You said you were over him months ago. I am over him, Mary said desperately. Lucas, please, can we talk about this privately? No, I said simply. We're done talking privately. We're done talking at all. My friends had paid their check and were heading over to our table. Mary recognized them and realized this wasn't some accidental encounter. This was planned. You set this up, she accused. You orchestrated this whole thing. Yeah, I admitted. Just like you orchestrated 3 months of cheating. Except I did it to find the truth, and you did it to destroy our relationship while keeping me as your backup plan. Qley appeared beside our table. I'd texted her when the confrontation started, and she'd driven over immediately. Mary, Qley said coldly, you've been using my name to cover your affairs for months. I just wanted to tell you in person that we're no longer friends, and I'll be talking to HR about your behavior since it affects the workplace. Mary left the restaurant alone. Dylan had stormed out after telling her she was crazy, and that he was done with the drama. My friends rallied around me, taking me out for drinks and letting me process what had just happened. I felt empty, but also relieved. The uncertainty was over. The lies were exposed. Everyone who mattered now knew the truth, and Mary couldn't spin this into a story where I was the villain. The next few days were rough. Mary tried calling and texting, alternating between apologies and anger. She wanted to work things out, and accused me of being vindictive and cruel for embarrassing her publicly. I blocked her number after the 3rd day of harassment. Moving out was easier than I'd expected. Most of our friends had chosen sides, and my side had all the evidence. Mary's reputation in our social circle was destroyed, and several mutual friends admitted they'd suspected something was up but hadn't known how to tell me. Breaking the lease was expensive, but I'd been prepared for that. Mary tried to stick me with the full penalty cost, claiming I was the one choosing to leave, but my lawyer, yes, I hired a lawyer, pointed out that adultery was grounds for breaking a cohabitation lease in our state. Mary had to scramble to find a roommate or cover the rent herself. From what Qley told me, she ended up moving back in with her parents in the suburbs, which was probably the most humbling part of the whole experience for her. Dylan, meanwhile, had apparently moved on to his next complicated situation within 2 weeks. Mary tried to get him back, but he'd blocked her on all social media. Turns out he was only interested when she was forbidden fruit, not when she was available and desperate. 6 months later, I was living in a studio apartment in a different part of town, building my freelance design business and slowly remembering what it felt like to be happy. The betrayal still stung, especially late at night when I'd remember good moments from our relationship and wonder if any of it had been real. Qley became a good friend through all of this. She'd quit her job at Mary's company after the whole mess created too much workplace drama, but she landed a better position at a different agency. We'd grab coffee sometimes, and she'd update me on the aftermath. Apparently, Mary had tried to repair her reputation by telling people that I'd been controlling and jealous, that she'd been afraid to break up with me directly. But too many people had seen the evidence, and her story didn't hold water. She'd burned through most of her friendships in Portland and eventually moved to Seattle for a fresh start. Lucas, my college friend, invited me to a party at his place in late summer, and that's where I met Rebecca. Rebecca was different from Mary in every way that mattered. Where Mary was always performing, always on, Rebecca was genuine and comfortable in her own skin. She was a veterinarian with her own practice, completely financially independent, with no interest in social media drama or games. We started as friends, which was exactly what I needed. Rebecca knew the whole story of my relationship with Mary, not because I dumped it on her immediately, but because it came out naturally over time as we got to know each other. She sounds exhausting, was Rebecca's simple assessment after hearing the whole saga. She was, I agreed. I just didn't realize it at the time. The right person doesn't make you feel like you're going crazy, Rebecca said. The right person makes everything feel clearer. 6 months later, Rebecca and I started dating officially. There was no drama, no games, no wondering where I stood. She communicated directly, kept her promises, and treated me like an equal partner rather than an audience for her performance. Almost a year after the restaurant confrontation, I got an unexpected message from Mary. She'd somehow gotten my new number, probably from someone who didn't know better, and sent me a long text apologizing for everything. She was in therapy now, she said. She realized she'd been using relationships to validate herself rather than actually caring about her partners. She'd hurt Dylan too, and several other guys since then. She wanted to make amends and ask for my forgiveness. I showed the message to Rebecca, who read it and handed my phone back with a shrug. "Up to you whether you respond," she said. "But you don't owe her forgiveness just because she's ready to give it." I thought about it for a few days, then sent back a short response. "I appreciate the apology, Mary. I hope therapy helps you. Please don't contact me again." She didn't. Looking back now, 2 years later, I can see all the red flags I missed with Mary. The way she always needed to be the center of attention, how she treated service workers when she thought no one was looking, her tendency to talk badly about her friends behind their backs. I'd been so focused on how she made me feel when things were good that I ignored how she made me feel when things were difficult. The right person doesn't disappear when you need them most, and they don't make you question your own reality. Rebecca and I moved in together last month. It was different this time. We talked through everything first, made sure we were compatible on all the important stuff, built a foundation of trust before we built a life together. Sometimes Rebecca will catch me being overly cautious about something small, and she'll remind me that she's not Mary. "I'm not going anywhere," she'll say. "You don't have to protect yourself from me." And slowly, I'm learning to believe that. I ran into Qley at the farmer's market last weekend. She was doing well, engaged to a guy from her new job, planning a small wedding for next spring. We caught up briefly, and she mentioned that Mary had reached out to her on LinkedIn recently, trying to reconnect. "I didn't respond," Qley said. "Some bridges are meant to stay burned." I agreed. Some people come into your life to teach you what you don't want, what you won't accept, what you're worth. Mary taught me that I deserved better than being someone's backup plan, better than being with someone who saw love as a competition rather than a partnership. Rebecca teaches me something different every day, that the right relationship doesn't feel like work, that trust isn't something you have to earn back repeatedly, that love can be both passionate and peaceful at the same time. As I walked home with vegetables for the dinner Rebecca and I were cooking together, I felt grateful for everything that had happened, even the painful parts. Without Mary's betrayal, I might never have learned to recognize real love when it finally showed up. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you is actually the best thing that could have happened to you. You just don't know it at the time.